We're ready to leave Powhatan because we're not going to build our next big factory in Powhatan, or at least we don't think we're going to do that. We may even leave Commonwealth. We need a big factory with a lot of workers. It is the great leap forward. Oliver, you think the place to locate this factory, because of what's being put on the table, because of the labor situation, because of the permitting situation, is China. Talk to the founders, try and persuade them that that's where we should go.
The part where we're going to try to hit it on price. I'm not totally in favor of just doing it on price, but in China, you do get price. Labor still is relatively reasonable. And the part that we're getting in China that's really favorable is that the Chinese government recognizes that we are a clean technology, and they're basically giving us the tools to come up with very large amounts of money. And that's what we need.
Are they going to build the factory for us?
They're giving us the money so that we can get the factory, and part of it is we're actually getting a factory that is actually now finding itself idle. It's been running for a few years, and then we're going to add some of our special technology to it. But we are getting the funding, all of it. And that's what's going to move us there for now. But we do have another leg in our relationship with them. And I personally would like to keep the heavy R&D, your department, Alex, let's keep it in Powhatan for now. It works well.
That's okay.
You disrupt too much, then everything
But the
starts
jobs
to break.
are going to go there. The jobs, the 1,000 jobs that we're talking about in this factory, they are going to go there. NT?
It's fair. They're giving us the money.
How do you react?
I'm a little torn.
Oliver is reporting.
Yeah, I think there is a pure sort of economic basis on which to make that argument. I worry a little about, do we really know how to operate, in that environment, and with that, I mean, there's a Freedom of Information Act. Do we really understand what will get in the way of the regulatory hurdles and issues, IP law, all of that sort of. All of that.
You're worried about the intellectual property
Absolutely.
protections there? You're afraid they may welcome us in and then take our ideas and our proprietary technology?
Yeah, and I'm also worried that, what is to prevent them from nationalizing us down the road once we are successful.
Jim Cheng,
they will work with us.
You hear about this offer.
I don't like that offer.
You don't? What are you going to do?
Well,
What are you going to say to them?
Well, look, tell you what, why don't you build a plant here, and we're going to give you whatever incentives you need based on.
It's the $1 billion that we're getting over there that we're not getting from you that's keeping us. Now, if you give us the $1 billion, we'll build another plant, because our product,
very
we can
difficult to get
sell
$1 billion.
every gallon that
That's
we
not
can
the
make.
role of
But
government.
I'll tell you what,
build
you
it.
probably don't want to send over your very deepest secrets over there. How about you do some final assembly there,
Actually-
whatever that final mixing
when
is.
someone
You
gives
want to
me-
keep it here.
When
and we
someone
want to
gives me
support
$1
you.
billion, I also give them what they pay for.
What are the terms of the $1 billion? Right?
Exactly.
What are the terms of the $1 billion? What
Good
control do you use? What kind of
What do you
assets?
get? What are we
What are
going
we
to
giving
get?
We
them?
really only get half of the factory, but we also get a direct entry into
So the Chinese own the other half of the factory?
Our Chinese partners own the other half of the factory, but it's a very large factory, and we immediately get a large number of government contracts for government buildings.
Mark Little, let's divorce for a moment the idea that the offer, you're still a little bit sore. They turned you down. You would have loved to have had them.
Love to. I wish them well, but I would love to.
How do you advise them now as they look at this offer to locate a factory, their next generation factory, in another country? This is something you've dealt with
Sure.
at Specific Electric time and time
Sure.
again,
Sure.
because you go where the market is.
Yeah. So you need to look at total cost of ownership, and I think that is an important factor. I think you understand how to do that. It's not just the labor cost as we're discussing, it's the all-in cost, and you can figure that out for yourself. But I'd ask you to think through elements of the deal also into, as you were saying, what markets do you get into with the Chinese? What requirements will they have for you? Will they allow you to do business if you are not in China? And is that an upside to you if you can go in, if the loss if you don't? So think about all these things. But I come back to a principal point, which I think you already referenced. Your technology is, at the end of the day, your advantage. And just make sure that you contain that your IP is respected, and that your technologists, who are the bread and butter of your organization at the end of the day, are sufficiently close to your operation that it can be successful in the end. Because sometimes proximity for the technologist in the factory is an overwhelming factor. So please think about that.
And I think there's a kind of underlying question here, which is, are there circumstances under which one would worry about separating the manufacturing from where the innovation occurs? And can you really do that? I think there are circumstances where one does this global innovation, global research using various technologies, but I think there is building and mounting evidence that if you try to have this separation of your high-end manufacturing from where the innovation occurs, you de facto may end up outsourcing that innovation.